I had one of my subscribers ask an amazing question. What's a timeline? My God, great question. See, the thing is, we're talking about shifting timelines, and maybe we're not even talking about the same thing. I'm going to talk in this video about what it is to shift timelines, jump timelines, create a new timeline so that I can empower you with the way you can do it to change your life, to change literally change the course of your life to a different one where you're empowered to manifest what you want to manifest. Hi there, beautiful souls. I'm Michèle Duquet. Welcome to my channel, Soulful and Unplugged. And really, this is a channel about the awakening process. And that can mean anything. It can mean a shift in consciousness. It could mean all of a sudden you just get an insight and you awaken to the fact that if you change this way of thinking, oh my God, you change your life. What I've come up with is a way to help you understand your power of shifting your timeline with, I got this little thing here I wrote, and I'm going to show you with a little graph. I think I'm very visual, so I can imagine that other people are visual as well. And first, I want to start with this beautiful video that I just watched, and it's just one of those random things that came on my feed, and it was a video about my astrological sign, Sagittarius, by Nicholas Ashbaugh. And I was just doing other things and listening, and then all of a sudden he was talking about what he does when he has the thought, I can't. And this is exactly how I want to explain to you the power of timeline shifting. Before I get too far ahead, what's a timeline? Well, I see it as two different perspectives. There is the perspective of the human timeline. This is how most people see it. A timeline is kind of, the past, the present, the future, and it's all one line. It's my time on earth. As a human being, I'm here, I live, and I cross. That's the timeline. Now, that's the human perspective. From the soul's perspective, everything's in the now. So at any moment, we can shift our lives and shift our timelines. So in the present moment, I have the power to shift everything by shifting my thoughts, by shifting where I live, by shifting my choices. That is really where your power is. And maybe shifting the relationships. All of that comes into play, but always. And as well, the soul's perspective is that we live in many different timelines, many different parallel universes. So every time we make a different choice, we enter a new timeline. There's also global timelines. So in this particular video, I'm just going to talk about our own personal timelines, because I would imagine that's really what you're really interested in, is just how the heck can I change my life? How can I keep that life? You'll find that out too. So here we go. Here is the human timeline. And here's the soul timeline. At any moment, the power of now shifts everything. So I'm going to get out my little chart and help you see where your power really is. So I'm going to talk about 5 timelines and the soul's power to change timelines at every moment. The first timeline is I can't. Second timeline, why can't I? Third timeline, how can I? Fourth timeline, I can do it. Fifth timeline, I am doing it. All right, already you can see where I'm going with this. But I really want you to see your power of choice and your power of thought in this. Okay, first I'm going to talk about the I can't timeline. So here's the I can't timeline. This is you, the start of your life. And this is the end point. So what happens somewhere along the line, you learn that I can't. At every moment in your life, if you don't change that thought, you will stay in this timeline, because that thought will create the experiences to confirm that thought, and that thought will attract all of the experiences that will also confirm that thought. that thought will also attract the people to confirm your belief system that you can't. Okay, now the second one. The second one involves really shifting that thinking in the most subtle way by asking a question. Why can't I? That takes a great deal of momentum to stop that I can't thought into why can't I? And here's what happens. At some point in this timeline, you start saying and thinking, why can't I? Why? Why can't I? What does that do? It opens up your consciousness. The I can't consciousness is just what it is. Everything is stopped, everything is blocked. But the why can't I opens up the ability to question whether what you're thinking is true or not. Wow, that's powerful. Why can't I? So I'll give you an example of rock climbing. One of the reasons I love rock climbing is because time and time again, the impossible becomes possible. You start doing a route and you think, there's no way I can do this. This is impossible. It's physically impossible. And then you create what's called a project. That climb becomes a project. And you start asking the question, well, why can't I make that move? Why can't physically can I do that? And what happens is you start being more open-minded as to what you need to work on in order to be able to make that move. There's a move called a pinch. So let's say my pinches, grabbing a hold like that, are weak. I will work on strengthening these with these. I have donuts, these really hard donuts. You squeeze, so you get where I'm going. Just that question alone starts to unravel a whole new way of thinking. That's what this does. It opens up for you the ability for you to see a whole new way of thinking about things, a whole new perspective. And what have you done? You have shifted timelines because you have moved from the I can't timeline into the why can't I. Okay, a third one. So at some point along this timeline, you get an answer why you can't. Right? With the analogy of the rock climbing, at some point in my investigation, I figure out, oh, if I just learn to do this move, I can do it. So in this timeline, you start realizing how you can. So that thought that was I can't now be, and then changed to why can't I? You figured out how. This is how I can do it. This is how I can do it. How? How can I do it? Still another question, but how can I do it is really shifting everything. And now, at some point in investigating, how can I? How can I? You open up your mind, you open up your consciousness into how you can do it. And at some point, you're so invested in how can I do it that you start shifting that timeline into I can do it. I can. I can do it. Okay, this is where it becomes so exciting. Look at this. Right here, what happens when you start investigating that you can do it? At some point, something happens and you decide to do it. I am. I am doing it. Yeah, in this, yeah, it kind of looks like you're going through the stratosphere. That's right. The timeline where you say I am, you're going through the stratosphere. I think that's pretty fitting. Now, all of these are different choices that you are empowered to do. But if you stay in the thought process of I can't, if you continue to choose again and again and again, that thought process, that timeline never shifts. If you start understanding the power of choice that you have, the power of perspective, the power of consciousness, and the power of awakening to a whole new consciousness, you allow yourself to open up to these shifts and changes. Now, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. And if you empower yourself with the simplicity of changing that simple thought from I can't to I am, and you really commit to doing it, you won't recognize your life in a very short amount of time. That is what it means to shift from your human perspective to your soul perspective, from the human consciousness to the expanded and awakened soul consciousness. To begin to live in the soul timeline, begin to tap into your expanded consciousness, begin to awaken to it, and you will understand at a profound level your power of choice and how truly empowered you are. No matter what your circumstances, every time you hear yourself thinking, I can't, ask yourself, why can't I? Then ask yourself, how can I? Find out how you can. Then see how you can do it. Next thing you know, you're saying to yourself, I am doing this. Wow. So now I just want to tap into the global timeline shifting that we're going through. It's similar but different in that what it is that many consciousness start shifting to a point where the old timelines collapse. And that happens in your personal life as well as on a global scale. In your personal life, timeline collapsing happens when the new timeline is so strong and has become so powerful that the old timeline, this one, simply collapses. It disappears. You never say, I can't again. And if you do, you're just so strong in your new timeline that it's not an issue anymore. You've learned how to handle it. With the global timeline shifting, so many people have shifted their consciousness in a similar way that the old timeline is no longer active. It's actually collapsed, and a new timeline has now shown up where it's impossible to live the way we used to live. Some of this can be incredibly positive. It may look chaotic. It may look messy, but it's actually very positive. Any change involves a lot of movement, and sometimes that movement can look chaotic. But really, if you just trust the process and trust this new shift that we're all going through, it'll help you relax because you'll understand that all that's happening right now is people are asking questions. Why can't I? Well, how can I do it? It's that's where everybody is right now. Why can't I? Well, how can I do it? And then at some point, everybody's going to go, yeah, I can do it. And then I am doing it. So if you find all these changes overly dramatic and this timeline shifting that's happening on a global scale just too much, scale it back to what you have power over in your life and start changing your own timelines because you can. I hope you found this helpful. I send you so much love. Bye for now.